Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
I did 111 days in the county, and it was because I had this here idea when I was drinking that I was some kind of a driver. And they chased me on the Santa Ana freeway for 9 miles, and if I hadn't have come to, they wouldn't have caught me. And I came to going down the freeway, and I looked around and I looked at this speedometer. I was wondering why I was going so fast, and then I wondered where the hell I was going, because I didn't know. And the judge said 180 days, and my daddy came out from Minnesota. He'd gotten on the program 2 years before that. And he said they're looking over your case for modification of sentence, and I liked the sound of that. And he said go to church, and I didn't like the sound of that. And he said go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I said I can take that. And so I went to my first meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and a guy by the name of Herb King, who's got 42 years of sobriety. I thought he was this big, tall black dude, but he's this little, short, skinny black dude. And he talked about his life down south, and he talked about walking around being afraid all the time. And then he talked about going out in the barn with his buddies, and they opened this here mason jar of white lightning, and he said the stink of it. And I was stationed in the Navy down south, and I knew what he was talking about, and I knew those mason jars, and I knew what that white lightning would do to you. You have to practically hold your nose to drink it, but it'll take you to heaven. And I started listening to him, and he talked about how he was afraid of everybody and everything, and how he took that first drink of alcohol, and he didn't care. He didn't care whether they hit him. He didn't care whether they shunned him. Everything was all right. And I can remember that first drink that I took when I was in college, and everything was all right. And I got kicked out of college because of it. I damn near got kicked out of the Navy because of it. And I had this 49 Chevy that I wrecked 7 times. And I used to say it was sliding on the ice in Minnesota. I wrecked it a couple times in California. And then in Santa Monica, there is no ice. So I came to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't have anything spiritual that I was looking for. I didn't think I had a drinking problem. In fact, it was my only friend. And I came to this program just to stay out of jail. And I stuck around. I had this 2-year idea that I'm on probation for 2 years, and for 2 years I'm not going to drink. And what happened was that I started going to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't have anything else to do because I didn't have a job. I was laying around down on the beach down in Venice, and people found out that I was a newcomer, and they started taking me to meetings, and I got mixed up with a bunch of young people on the program. They were all in their 30s, and I was 25, and this was in 1957. And I remember one weekend we went to 9 meetings from Friday night to Sunday night. I've already been to 3 meetings today. I haven't changed much. The only thing that's really changed is in here. Outwardly, I'm the same man. I started going to meetings, and I was suckered into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was suckered into doing the steps. This woman who I thought was going to put the make on me had me do a 4-step. I didn't understand that, but I was young and foolish, so it didn't make any difference. And she made arrangements for me to do a 5th. And I did the 5th, and I have no idea what was in the 4th. I have absolutely no idea what I said to this priest up in the Palisades about the 5th. I have no understanding of that whatsoever. I can't even remember that. But I can remember Eddie was sitting in the car about maybe 15, 20 feet from the door of the rectory in the Palisades. And there was 2 steps down to the sidewalk and about 15 steps, 10 steps to his car. And I floated down those steps into the car. I just felt good. And that was one of the beginnings of my introduction to the program and to the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I was young and crazy. There was a lady that decided I was it, and she said that she was going to go over to Vegas and get a divorce, and when she came back, we'd get married, and I said, okay. And she went over and got a divorce, and she came back, and we got married. Now, that marriage lasted about 11 years, and I got a divorce. And I will be forever grateful to that woman, because we started to trudge the road to happy destiny in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous together. And we went off to meetings, and I got hooked up to the institutional committee, and I went to literally thousands of meetings, and went to hundreds of institutions all over Southern California, Northern California, Arizona, Minnesota, Washington. I didn't want to do any of this. I wasn't interested in any of this. In the beginning, I didn't think I had a problem with alcohol. And over a period of years, or a period of months in the beginning, I began to see where my alcoholism was. I began to see that I would take a drink and I wouldn't know what happened. I went to a dance in Glenwood, Minnesota one night, and I started drinking, and the next morning I was handed a little trophy for winning a dance contest. Now, you couldn't hardly get me out on a damn dance floor. But in a blackout, I won a dance contest. You know? So there was a basic small problem with alcohol. And I got into this program, and I began to become honest enough to realize I had a problem with alcohol. And I didn't want to work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I got suckered into it. And I went to, I think the first 15 years on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I survived on meetings. Just strictly survived on meetings. Now, I'll have you know that I worked the steps. I don't know what it was all about, but I worked them. It was a long time ago. I do not quite remember it. But I remember somewhere right at the end of the marriage where I wanted out. And I had to get out. And I didn't know why. But the whole thing was a lie. And it was a lie because I wasn't honest with anybody. I could never tell anybody the truth. I could never tell anybody how I felt because that was secret on the inside. That was late at night. That was the nights that I used to wake up at 2:30 in the morning and I couldn't go back to sleep. And this was the life I was living with, a woman who I'm forever grateful for. She gave me a life that, she allowed me to grow up. She put up with my bullshit. I was crazy. Crazy sober on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't do a lot of good things. Because I went to hundreds of meetings, I went to hundreds of institutions. And I carried the message to some people. There are still some people that are still sober because I talked them into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I had this one poor guy that I worked with, and I drug him off to meetings. I badgered that poor son of a bitch for 12 years. You know? He's got 25 years of sobriety. He's the Wyandotte Indian. And he's crazy. He's crazy sober today. And the thing is that a bunch of things happened. She had a hysterectomy, and I ran into financial difficulty, and the whole thing became a big mess. And I moved out and moved into a garage. And there, in that garage, I was stuck with myself. And there wasn't anybody else around that I could point the finger at. It was me. And I was in this garage, and that garage is small. It had enough room for one chair, one easy chair, and a bed. Had a little table in there with a lamp on it so you could read by. I was stuck in there. I owed a lot of money. And I had to pay that debt off because that's the crazy kind of person I am. I cannot live with debt. I learned how to do that since I got sober. I owe a lot of money today. I wrote out $5,000 worth of checks yesterday. I don't have any money in the bank now. So I've learned how to do that. But at that time, very fortunately, I couldn't do that. And so I was stuck with myself in this little garage. And I was introduced to the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous as I know them today. You know, they read the 12 steps today. And the 12 steps are written here just exactly the way they were written in the book that I had that I was living in the garage with. I still got that book. It's a little bit tattered right now. But they haven't changed the words and the steps one little bit. The only thing that's changed is in here. And there's a statement in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous that says get rid of all your old ideas. It doesn't say get rid of all your old bad ideas. It says get rid of all your old ideas. And that's what in the last years since I've been sober is what I've been trying to do. Now, I haven't tried to do that deliberately. But the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and going to the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, I have been given the privilege of being able to see what I couldn't see when I was drinking or when I first came on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. To have that inner insight that, yes, I was a fun-loving type person. Yes, I had some very smart comments to make. And yes, I was mean and vicious. And that's the path I went down. I was a smart-ass. I was fast-wit. And I could come up with a statement about you or yourself or your friends or something. And what it was is they'd stand there and look at me and, did he really say that? Did he really mean what he said? I was mean and vicious in a fun-loving, smart-ass way. Yet I didn't know that. I didn't know these things about me. It says, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. You know, if you don't know you're hurting people, you can't even stop. You have to learn what the hell your life is about. Okay, now I'm not talking about the fact that I turned my life around and became this here very stoic human being, because I'm still a crazy son of a bitch. And I love a good time. I love to pump adrenaline. That's one of the major reasons I'm up here tonight. Because I get up here, and just walking up here, you pump a lot of adrenaline. I had to learn how to live. And I didn't learn how to live when I first came into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And there was many years on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous before I started to learn how to live the way I feel today. I love the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm not talking about going around carrying a banner. I'm talking about what is possible within yourself because of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we're not talking about becoming a good guy. We're talking about starting to take a look at life. And I started to take a personal inventory when I was in this garage. I was introduced to the 10th step, and she said, do you ever take a 10? This friend of mine, I was a little gal that tried to get sober for 8 years, and she finally glued together 1 year of sobriety, and she knew more when she had 1 year of sobriety than I know today about the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. She had a book that was like a used cookbook, and you know how you get a good cook with a good cookbook? I mean, there's pieces of tape on the goddamn thing. There's paper stuffed in it. I mean, it looks like a sad affair. But they can pick that damn book up and they can throw something on the table. It becomes wonderful. And she had a book like that. And what she did was she threw something on the table that turned my whole life around. She took the 10th step and take personal inventory. And this is just one of the things that I was hooked into. Take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. I didn't even pay attention to the first half of the 10th step. I was looking for the fact that when I was wrong, I would promptly admit it. If I could go in there every night, and that's all I was looking for. And she said, Jack, what about you? And I said, what do you mean? What do you want? I don't know. That was my stock answer. She said, where do you want to go? Well, I don't care. Wherever you want to go. What do you want to do? Okay, whatever you want to do. And she said, I have known you for a long time. And she said, I have never heard you say or make a statement of what was interesting in your life or what you wanted to do. And she said, wouldn't it be nice if somebody said, what do you want to do or where do you want to go, that you could say, oh, I don't know, let's go over here because I want to do this and this and that. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to do that someday? And I said, yeah. She said, why don't you start writing down in a personal inventory instead of finding out where you've been wrong of what the hell you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? And we're talking about a man with 15 years of sobriety, in a marriage, that had a marriage, had a son, didn't know what to do with himself. Living in a garage because he was afraid of debt. Sober on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're not talking about a drunk. We're not talking about somebody that doesn't have anything going for him. We're talking about a man that just made $24,000 the year before, and he's living in a garage because he's afraid to live. And he's sober on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. He has the privilege of having the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and having the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous to learn how to live, and he doesn't know how. That's where I was with 15 years sobriety, because I believed what they said. When you get sober, you put the plug in the jug and you go to meetings and everything will be all right. I put the plug in the jug, I went to meetings, and I didn't know a goddamn thing about myself. I didn't know anything about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was walking around telling everybody it's good to stay out of jail. Good message, isn't it? Goddamn right. Don't go to jail. Okay, but what comes after that? What comes after that? And I started to write in this there little spiral notebook. I filled 8 of them up in the next 4 years. And I started to write. And we're talking about a man that would sit down and in the confines of a small room with nobody there. And he's writing like this here in a notebook because he's afraid that somebody may see what he wants to be. And I wrote things down, and it took me 2 years really to start getting excited about writing down what would be nice to have in my life. But I wrote a few things down, and one of them was that I couldn't even go see my kid because I was ashamed of what I had done. I left his mother. And I wasn't making enough money, and so I couldn't really take him out and play. Well, after a while, I found out that all he wanted to do was be with me. And all I had to do was go pick him up. But I didn't know that. I'm living in a garage, and I'm living in my head. And my head is a bad place to be. Because I'm down on me, and I'm down on everybody else, because I think that everybody else is at fault. Everybody else is the problem that I have. They are keeping me where I'm at.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
And I started to take this personal inventory, and I began to find out some things. And one of the things that I did write down is I wanted to be a father to my son. I wanted to have a shop of my own. 2.5 years later, my son was living with me in the shop that I had, and I've had for the last 25 years. I began to dig down inside of me, not to look and see what was bad, but to look and see what's inside of me. What works? And you know, when you come into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and you take that personal inventory, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Now, most of the time we come in here and we do not take a moral inventory. We take an immoral inventory. And that's fine when you first come in here. That is very good. It is very good because you list a whole bunch of things that you did wrong and you're ashamed of and you want to get rid of. You want to get them out of your head. It's a house cleaning. And you start out and you take this life and you got all of this wreckage on this lot. And you go in there with a bulldozer and you clean the goddamn lot off. And you start out after you've done the 4th and the 5th, and you start out, you have a clean slate. And you can start your life all over again. It doesn't make any difference what you've done. You know, if you've gone to some meetings in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, you walk in that door and they don't ask you, what do you got? They don't ask you, where is your program? Where is your card of identification? Do you have a driver's? They don't give a shit where you come from. You come into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and you're accepted in here. You can be anything or have done anything. You come into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, you want to stay sober, you are accepted. How many people do you know in this room that are sitting next to you what they do for a living? Take a look around. Who do you know what does for a living? Most of us don't. We don't ask you what you are or who you are or what you can do for us. Come in, pick up a chair, sit down. Begin your life all over again. And that's what I did, and I came in here and I sat down and I began my life all over again, and I lived on it for 15 years, and I was still operating with the same theories and the same ideas that I had when I came in the door of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had to be sober for 15 years. I had to lose everything that I worked for 15 years. And I had to live in a garage for a while before I began to start looking around and what does my life mean to me? And what does my life mean to me so that I can start living a life that is promised to me in the promises in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I live my life, and I don't have a lot. But I came in here tonight, and I sat down, and I walked up here pumping adrenaline. And I walked up here pumping adrenaline, not because I was afraid, but because there's a possibility there's somebody in this room that I can sucker in to work in the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Have you ever seen somebody walk in like this gentleman said, couldn't stay sober? And have you seen them walk in and then the lights start to shine in their eyes? And have you seen them when they start taking a little interest in what they look like? And then you've seen them go out and find a job and start becoming another citizen in this world? And then you see them grab the hand of somebody else and start taking them into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous? Do you know that there are 150 programs because of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous? We have the greatest spiritual movement that is going, and I tell you one thing, don't quite be afraid of the word spiritual. You see, I came on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the only story that I can say is that I came on this program, and I used to talk about God, and I used to talk about God because it was the thing to do. And I was afraid of God. I was afraid of what possibly would happen if he ever figured out where I was at. There was that little story that the guy that said he never prayed because he knew if he prayed, God would find out where he was and then he'd be in deep trouble. That's where I was for the first 15 years on the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, probably 17 years. And then I went to a movie called Star Wars. And two actors are up there and they said, one of them said to the other one, "May the force be with you." And I was handed a higher power that had no image. I came in here, I was born and raised in the Catholic Church. And I was afraid of God. I was afraid that I would go to hell forever and fry. And I finally said, to hell with it. And then when I went to that movie, I scared the people that were sitting in front of me because I started laughing. And I started laughing hysterically because it was the first time in my life that I thought there was a possibility that I could have a higher power and it would work for me. And I wouldn't have gotten that if it hadn't been for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. If it hadn't been for these steps. It hadn't been for trying to find a way for me to stop dying on the inside on a daily basis. And we're not talking about drunk. We're talking about sober. We're talking about having friends. And you know what it's like to wake up in the middle of the night screaming on the inside and not be able to go back to sleep? It's that lonely time when you have no friends and you have no way out. And the program of Alcoholics Anonymous will show you how to relax on the inside. None of this stuff comes easy. We come in here, we're crazy. The only thing that we can do is sedate that piece of gristle in between your ears. Some people call it mine. It is my enemy. I'm a genius. And I love my mind. I love what it can do for me. But it'll drive me up the wall. And I come to the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous because in the beginning I did not know how to meditate. A meditation to me was something foreign. And then I heard a tape by a doctor or psychiatrist or who the hell ever he was. Meditation is shutting off the chatter of the mind. And I finally got it. And one of the things that I have in my work is that it takes sometimes every bit of a concentration for me to do my job. We had a car yesterday and the day before, and we still don't know what the hell's wrong with it. But we would get so deep into that car, everything else was gone. Everything was gone. And all of that push and all of that insanity is gone. And you wake up. Somebody came and asked me a question yesterday. And about 10 minutes later, I thought, who said that? And I didn't go crazy yesterday because my head was gone and it had a job to do somewhere else. And I could relax. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous has not given me my life back. It has given me a life because I never had one before. And I am so grateful for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am so grateful for what it has given me on the inside. I cannot tell you how good it has made me feel. I cannot tell you how much it means to me to have a shop where people can come in and they have a cup of coffee and they don't have to say nothing. They don't have to do nothing. They come in and they say, just watching that crazy bastard work is enough for me. Thank God for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I hope to God I never have to leave it. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.